Okay, in this video, we're going to be looking at different types of unemployment. So there's a range of different types of unemployment we need to be aware of, and we're going to go through each of them individually in this video. So first of all, there's two sort of main forms. There's what we call cyclical unemployment and natural unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is unemployment caused by a lack of aggregate demand, so a lack of demand for Australian-made goods and services. So it's generally caused by a lack of consumer spending because of things like weak overseas growth, a high exchange rate, high interest rates, and a range of other factors. So cyclical unemployment, unemployment caused by a lack of demand. Natural unemployment is unemployment that's not really related to the level of economic activity. It's unemployment sort of that occurs regardless of the strength of the economy. And all four other types of unemployment we're going to talk about relate to what we call natural unemployment. So cyclical unemployment basically occurs because businesses experience less demand for their products. Then they have unsold goods. So they decide to produce less because there's no point in producing if people don't want their products. Because they're producing less, they require less labor. And then workers can't find jobs because people aren't hiring labor. So it's lack of demand, which leads to a lack of production, which leads to a lack of demand for labor, and therefore people lose their jobs. There's a range of reasons that cyclical unemployment occurs. It can occur because there's weak growth overseas, so we export less. It might be because businesses close down because there's people are spending less because of higher taxes. Basically, anything that causes a lack of demand for Australian products, high interest rates, can all lead to cyclical unemployment. Structural unemployment occurs when there's a mismatch of skills between the unemployed and the jobs available. So it occurs generally because the businesses change the way they do things, as opposed to there being a general lack of demand in the economy. So it occurs because of structural changes where businesses change the way they go about producing goods and services, generally to try and cut costs. So examples would be when they decide to use more technology in the production process. So robots, for example, replace labor in manufacturing because it's cheaper to use capital. There's a mismatch of skills among the unemployed. So the unemployed may have skills that are no longer in demand. So things that are no longer produced, like say VCR players, or if you produce using wool and then suddenly the synthetic materials take over. So there's basically when you lose your job because of inferior technology or you don't have skills that the labour force requires. New technology means traditional skills are no longer wanted, so you don't have the right skills to gain employment. Business closures because of poor profitability. So if just that particular industry is experiencing high production costs, for example, or they're outsourcing your job to cheaper countries, that's all referred to as structural unemployment. So for example, if it's like I say a clothing company decides to manufacture overseas and you lose your jobs, and also when there's lower tariffs, which mean we buy more imports and Australians lose their job because of lower tariffs. That would be another example. So it's generally when people lose their job because businesses change the way they do things. Other types of unemployment, frictional unemployment. The difference between this and structural unemployment is these are people that have voluntarily left their job to start a new job. So if you quit your job voluntarily to look for a new job, that's frictional unemployment. It also includes people who are rejoining the workforce or joining the workforce for the first time. So, for example, if school graduates were to join the workforce and couldn't find a job, they'd be classified as frictionally unemployed. Mothers returning to work after having a baby would be another example of frictional unemployment because they're rejoining the labour force. So people joining or rejoining and people that have voluntarily left their jobs are examples of examples of frictional unemployment. Seasonal unemployment is generally the easiest one. It's people who lose their jobs at particular times throughout the year. So if you're a ski instructor, you only really have work during winter. Fruit pickers, lifeguards in some capacities, all those kind of people that don't have jobs at certain times throughout the year would be classified as seasonal unemployment. So your Father Christmas that dresses up, I'm assuming they don't have another job at supermarkets and things like that. Hardcore unemployment is the last one. These are people that are unemployed because of personal characteristics or personality traits which make it hard to find a job. So it can include people that find it hard to find work because of personal appearance, those that have criminal records which prevent them from getting employment, and it also includes people with disabilities that are looking for work that find it particularly tricky to find work because of their disability. So it's not including people with disabilities that aren't in the labour force, that can't work. It's people that have a disability that find it hard to get work because of that disability, but they're still looking. They have to be still looking to be unemployed. All these people in the different types of unemployment are all still looking. The hidden unemployment is a different one. These people actually aren't unemployed, so it's a pretty bad name to describe them. but these are people that have given up looking for work because they find it hard, and they basically haven't been able to get a job. So they've been probably looking for a long time. They've found it particularly tricky. Now they've given up. So they're also called discouraged workers, and these people are no longer part of the labour force. So they're not really unemployed, but these are people that have given up looking for work. And your last one, underemployed people or disguised unemployed. Again, these people aren't unemployed either. These are people that are working less than they would like to. So they're either working less hours than they'd like to, and therefore they're classified as underemployed. So it's not all part-time and casual people. It's people that are working part-time or casually, less than full-time, and would like to work more hours. It also includes people that have qualifications but can't find work in those professions, so they take less skilled work. So, for example, if you if you're a doctor or an engineer, but you're still working at Macca's because there's no demand for doctors or engineers, that would be an example of being underemployed, because you're employed, you're working more than an hour a week, but you're not working to your full capacity. So they're the different types of unemployment. There's essentially 5 types of unemployment: cyclical, structural, frictional, seasonal, and hardcore. And then you've got other people that hidden unemployed that aren't part of the labour force, so they're not unemployed, and disguised unemployed, or underemployed people that are working but not as much as they'd like to. In terms of the impacts of unemployment, we'll just finish it here. There's a range of problems that are associated with high levels of unemployment, and that can be things like it can cause mental illness and depression. You may need to sell off your assets. You may need to rely on savings in the past or from charity. It can lead to tension and family problems. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to crime, violence, and alcoholism. Often people aren't very sympathetic to people that are unemployed and can lead to negative social stigma. It also leads to the government collecting less revenue, which can have a negative impact on the economy as well. Effects of the economy, as I said, it can lead to less of production. So if more people are unemployed, there'll be less production because less people are working. Lower economic growth. Um, we're not using our full productive capacity, which means we've got idle resources not working to our potential. Greater inequality because some people are relying on welfare. It also leads to less government revenue for the government as well. Thank you.